Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Purpose Tune podcast. The goal of the show is to create valuable content to broaden your knowledge, inspire you to act, and get you in the right mindset so you can apply it in your own life to drive impact, generate meaning, and achieve your purpose. Today's guest is Todd McCarty. Todd was raised in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. on a steady diet of the 80s hardcore punk. He is a music industry veteran currently living in Japan with his wife and daughter. And he credits driving a cab with getting his music business career off the ground. In 1998, while listening to music between fairs, he plotted his career, his future, one cab driver confessional at a time. He is a drummer, tour manager, label executive, and was a VP of sales for a major label company, Sony Music. While serving as general manager and head of sales at Fearless Records for 13 years, he was awarded several platinum and gold sales awards. Todd released over 200 cover songs on the Punk Goes compilation, which has been streamed over 1 billion times. Recently, he started he started Band Builder Academy, the premier online academy for independent musicians, where he shares his artist development process and teaches musicians to build their bands from opening act to headlining act. So, Todd, welcome to the show. How are you
Hey,
doing?
Com. Thanks for having me. And thanks for
Yeah,
everybody for tuning in. Excited to get into this.
yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show. I it was when I found out about your background, I was so excited because you bring a unique perspective to the show. Tying music and purpose. And so, my first question to you is, how did you get started in this work?
Oh, okay. Good question. So I've been a lifelong music fan. I think it started with going to parades when I was a kid and hearing the drum lines and the powerful music going on. And I just loved that. I always wanted to do it. So I would break out the pots and pans and, play drums from a young age. And as soon as in grade school I could get involved, I was in the band and I became a drummer. So my music industry career started through being a drummer, and I played in, um, you know, just bands with my friends. We started bands in the basement, in the garage, and um, we actually ended up booking tours and marketing ourselves and learning the business just by doing it ourselves.
Mhm.
So that sort of gave me um, promotion skills from an early age. And believe it or not, I didn't realize it at the time, but that was my first entrepreneurial job. Maybe a lemonade stand before that. But yeah. So I got into it just from doing it, getting involved, and putting myself out there. And we were even pressing vinyl records in high school.
Mhm.
So it wasn't like we were just practicing in a garage. Like we were actually setting up shows and writing to magazines and um, you know just promoting ourselves regionally. And even I was from Washington D.C. and promoting all over the East Coast.
Mhm. So when you were doing all of these types of activities, doing it as you go, did you see yourself as an entrepreneur throughout those times?
No, no, I just saw myself as uh, you know a musician who wanted to build a fan base and you know um, just make a career of it. I knew I always wanted to do something that I was passionate and loved, and drumming and music and playing with a group of guys, that was so much fun. And I just wanted to do that for a living. And I tried to do that as much as I could, um, and started getting more serious about the business part of it. But even while doing it, maybe because my parents said that's not a real job. I never felt like it was a job. It was because I was going to college at the same time,
Mhm.
before I was working, and it didn't really feel like a legitimate job until later on. Um, so no, I didn't really know I was doing learning entrepreneurial skills the whole time until later.
right. It's really funny how um, when we start doing the one thing leads to another, and you're like, looking back, that makes sense why my career led me to this. And could you, when you're reflecting on your career and your path to where you are now, what are some of your learning journeys? Like, what were some of the aha moments that you that clicked in your head, and you're like, oh, that made sense why I did it this way, or why that path led me to this path, which leads me to where I am today. Can you share what that process was like?
Sure, sure. Yeah, so I think what's unique with me and those sort of aha moments where I I'm somebody that when I want to set my mind to do something, I
Mhm.
just attack it and I go and I just don't stop until I've done it. And what I realized looking back is I actually never was fired from a job or um, I always chose my path. Like I was always in control. So like if I wanted to have a job doing like I started a cab driver just because I was interested in it. I That was out of college. My first job was a cab driver, and what that allowed me to do was tour for 2 months at a time if I wanted to, as long as I drove my cab once every 60 days. Like the first of the month, I could take 60 days off, come back and drive the last day of that next month, and still keep my cab driving license, so I could tour with my band and it fit really good with the musician lifestyle. And I always had a job when I was doing that. So
Mhm.
I, and then as soon as that, was dangerous and I thought, I better not do cab driving much longer because it was a dangerous job. But it was exciting.
Where was this,
And
by
I
the
learned
way?
a lot. What's that?
Where was this? Where were you driving?
I
Yeah.
was in Orlando, Florida at the time, driving a yellow cab. And yeah, it was and it was the best experience because it taught me how to talk to everybody.
Mm.
I learned from all walks of life, and it was just real conversational job and meeting 30 different people a day, and that was just really interesting to me.
Right.
um, but yes, I learned from that job. But next job, like I went and I said, okay, everybody wants seems to be pressuring me to get a real job after college. So I went and I worked for a Fortune 500 company, publicly traded telecom company, and I was there. I learned to be a sales guy there, and I did that for a year and made a lot of money. It was awesome, and it taught me a lot. But it wasn't music, and I wanted to do music,
Mhm.
so I was in control. I said, you know what, I'm gonna do music. So I was still playing in bands, but then I started tour managing other bands,
Mm.
and also I took those sales skills and I just started cold calling record companies. And I said, if I could, do it for a telecom company, I could do it for music companies. So I convinced like 20 independent labels to let me be their sales guy and help them expand their distribution and get their records into stores and expand their distribution, but also small independent record stores. And so I did that, and that was, I guess, my next journey into entrepreneurship, where I had 20 freelance clients, um, and one led to the next. I just did a good job for one, it led to the next, and that's how I ended up working for Fearless Records for 13 years.
Mhm.
Fearless was one of those 20 labels that I was working for,
Mhm.
and I stayed there for 13 years and quickly became from sales guy to general manager, and it was just a great entry into the music industry, like proper record label industry. And then when that wasn't going well, I was in control again. I said, I want to do something I'm passionate about and excited about, and I decided I wanted to do music education. But in order to set myself up to do bandbuilderacademy.com, which teaches musicians music marketing and all the skills I learned from running a record label and promoting artists, I needed a path to get to entrepreneurship again, out of the 9 to 5 into an entrepreneurial role. And meanwhile, Sony had recruited me, and I took that job. I said yes to that job, And but after a year and a half, I was still looking to do something like Band Builder Academy. So
Mhm.
when the time was ready, I quit Sony in Los Angeles and I moved my family to Japan, and started my own business again, which was online, and I could spend more time with my family and do the things I was passionate about in life, travel and um, you know, business and family.
Right. That's incredible, the transitions you made throughout your career and now in Japan. Now, of course, I know why you're in Japan, but could you tell some of my listeners if they're wondering why Japan?
Sure, sure, yeah. So I fell in love and got married with a Japanese when I was in Los Angeles,
Mhm.
and from that moment on, I was, really, really interested in the culture, and we took a trip every year and visited her family and her hometown, and I really liked it. And also, we have a daughter. She was 5 at the time when we were living in Los Angeles, and we decided we wanted to get my daughter some education. It would be a good opportunity for me to, start my business online, not having the expensive lifestyle of Los Angeles. It's actually really affordable. People think Japan, Tokyo is going to be super expensive. We're in a smaller city of 1 million people, and it's very affordable. So it allowed me to get this cultural experience, allow me to start my business, bootstrap the business. It allowed my daughter to get fluent in Japanese and read and write, and my wife to reconnect with her family. She'd been in America for over 20 years. So she'd actually lived in America uh, like longer than she was in Japan. I think she left Japan when she was 16 or 17 to go study abroad in America. So here we are. We decided 2 years. We rented out our place in LA, and we decided we tried out for 2 years, and we're coming up on 4 years now. I think the pandemic sort of changed our plans to move back to LA, but we still have a place there, and but so far we're just really loving it here, and the business is going well. Even being removed from the LA, New York music market, but it's a global business, and if the pandemic has taught us anything, it's that you can do business from Zoom or the phone.
That's incredible. So, of course, the show is about purpose. What does purpose mean to you, and how have you used it in your life?
Okay, yeah, purpose. It's not something I think a lot about anymore. I think it comes and goes, in someone's life. It's a temporary type concept, I think.
Mm.
So I don't really think about purpose too often, but being on your podcast, it's made me, think a little bit about it. And I think uh, every 5 or so years, my purpose might change a little bit. My 20-year-old self would tell my 30-year-old self a different thing than my 40-year-old self. So,
Right.
uh, you know, when I was young, it was just, become, a successful musician. And then it transitioned into become a successful music sales or music industry employee.
Mhm.
Um, and but my work, I guess, has always stayed consistent. It's help developing artists, young musicians, learn the business, build a good lemonade stand, build a good business, and build a fan base, and then learn how to promote yourself and um, pay yourself first, and make a living doing what you love. So that's my main purpose, I guess, and that stayed consistent.
Mm.
But when I had kids I'm 44 right now. I think I had my daughter when I was like 36, 37. So she's 9 now,
Mm.
and my purpose changed when I became a father, or when I became a husband. Before that, so you know I think the the purpose, though, overall has just been um, do my work, and my work is helping young musicians, and not young, just new and developing artists who are trying to build a fan base, help them do that and help them make a living doing it.
Right. I love that. I think what I'm hearing from you is that it's really about supporting people and making it a lasting impact so that when they do become successful one day, they'll think of you and, the sessions that, they've had with you. And so, really that's what I think most of my, the guests on this show talk about is that impact. How can I make an impact in my communities, the people I live with, that I serve, my clients, my coworkers, and such. And so I'd love to hear that. So, of course, you've been through, several transitions and have held multiple roles, and like everyone else have really challenged yourself. How do you push through difficult times?
Hmm. Um, I think when things get difficult, I start to say, okay, well, let's just fix it. Let's turn things around. So I think that's the point, when good decision making kicks in. And
Mhm.
I'm a big believer in decision making. I think that um, life typically comes down to the good decisions, the bad decisions, and learning from, you know, those things. And
Mhm.
so if I'm struggling, it means that it's probably been either just bad luck and I'm going to power through and get through it, or I've made a bad decision. And if I have, I start making some good decisions and things turn around. So I think that's my simple approach is, and if I could give your community some advice, it would just be, um, the trajectory of your life, other than health and global forces, um, you're really in the driver's seat. And if you just make continuous good decisions, those things string together and just go up.
Mhm.
And if you get off track, you just, make some good decisions for yourself and for your family, um, and make a change.
Mhm. That's amazing. Um, so, of course, in all these challenges we struggle with, we sometimes, I mean, different people handle challenges different ways. How do you find inspiration in all of these challenges?
How do I find inspiration in these challenges?
Yeah, right.
Um,
Do you turn to music for inspiration? Do you look at your kid, your wife for support? Like, what are some of the resources or tools that you tap into to help you process through the challenges in your life?
yeah, I would say family and hobbies.
Mm.
I I love just, be outside, especially during this pandemic. I mean, going on hikes with the family or visiting new places outdoors mostly.
Mhm.
And just, or playing board games or, you know, just playing with my daughter and having good family memories. Um, so that gets me through and gives me inspiration, and I work to to make our life happy.
Mhm.
But I would say like hobbies, I love baseball.
Mhm.
I'm very excited about your San Diego Padres, and it's not a baseball podcast, but San Diego's got like the most exciting team in Major League Baseball right now. So I watch a lot of that, and I read up on it. I love history, so I'm consuming history podcasts and videos and all of that. So,
Mhm.
um, but other than that, yeah, I mean, I listen to a lot of music. I mean, probably 4 or 5 hours of music a day while I'm working, just checking out artists. And I just love music. I always have. I'm never somebody who's tired of that. Like I
Mhm.
don't burn out on music, so I listen to a lot of music.
Right. Do you also, of course, prior to the pandemic, attend concerts and such?
Yes,
Other
I
than
miss
working.
live music so much. It's like the thing, other than really good Mexican food in California, live music is the thing I miss I miss most, and I just can't wait for it to come back. And
Mhm.
please, somebody in the music industry, I just beg all of you out there, when music does come back and it's safe in your area, please go out there and buy a ticket, buy a t-shirt. That's how these artists need to make their money. And
Mhm.
they've really been hit hard by the pandemic. So please go out and support lots of musicians. They all need your help. And don't stop. Don't just like do it for the first, couple weeks and get your fill.
Right.
Keep going. It's going to take a while for the music industry to recover.
What are some of the things that we can do now to support the music industry, inspiring artists, rather than wait until the pandemic is over? What would you say are some of the top things that artists would appreciate from us?
Yeah. I think the easy thing to do is to um, go to their artist profiles on whatever service you listen to, whether it's Apple Music or Spotify,
Mhm.
um, and uh, follow them, listen to their music and heart it. Like if there's like a heart button,
Mhm.
those type of actions on those platforms are the best way you can help a musician. It's almost like giving a musician money, because when you hit the heart button, it tells Apple or Spotify or YouTube that um, that this is popular and people like it. And
Right.
so the algorithms kick in and they show that artist's music to more people, and it
Mhm.
helps them get exposure.
Mhm.
So that's one of the like easy ways that you can help. So a follow on Spotify is like the best thing you can do as far as on a streaming service.
Mhm.
Um, and then I'd say the other thing would be, there's a lot of artists that have like either a Bandcamp or um, some sort of GoFundMe or Patreon or these crowdfunding things where
Mhm.
you're putting money directly into their pockets. Um, that's a good way. Buying merchandise is, there's good profit in the merchandise for them. So those are them. And then just they're out there hustling. Musicians are out there working hard to build their fan bases and get to know you and keep in touch. And so, interacting with them on social media is a great thing to do as well. And always hearting, and like not just hearting, but um, saving. And
Mhm.
there's one step, like the heart is like the easiest thing to do, but there's always one step up. Like on social media, they'll have like a bookmark, like
Oh, right.
that's an even better thing. It really sort of rockets them up in the algorithm.
Right. Yeah, it's just it's so funny. A lot of it has to do with marketing and understanding how the platforms work. And so even I myself struggle with posting content on Instagram, and
Me
sometimes
too.
in YouTube. And so it's really getting the insights on how these platforms work and how we as artists and content generators and entrepreneurs can really build our brand is by really educating ourselves on how these platforms are connected to one another, how they play out, and things like that. So definitely,
Yeah. Yeah, another cool thing with that people are going to see in music is any type of festival ticket
mhm,
or concert ticket that you buy in the future will most likely come with a like some sort of live experience or virtual experience, whether it's a live show, like a live stream of the event, or a question and answer, or some sort of behind the scenes content. Um, and I'm not talking about just a pure live stream, because quite frankly, that just never matches the full live music experience. It's always a little bit of a letdown. But hey, if you're across the world and you can't be there, it's the next best thing. But what I'm talking about is highly produced bonus content or an extra experience that you get. And I think that's the future for
mhm,
for live music. The sort of extra experience that you can pay for in addition, or you get with with the price of a regular physical ticket.
right.
So I think that's something that you can help artists, like help support, get that model off the ground.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that's another thing that's kind of I'm looking forward to, um,
Yeah, yeah.
that type of content in music.
Could you share with us your experience with um, releasing those hundreds of cover songs? what was the process like, and your excitement over that, and what people were saying?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So when I came to work at Fearless Records in 2002, they had just released one compilation album called Punk Goes Pop.
Hmm.
And sorry, it was the first one was called Punk Goes Metal. So it was actually kind of a strange concept. And this one wasn't as successful as Punk Goes Pop, but the first one was like um, punk or pop punk bands covering metal songs, and it did okay. But the big one was Punk Goes Pop, where they were covering like, Britney Spears and the Backstreet Boys and all these massive boy bands, and it was funny, and it was just a good concept, and it spread. This was sort of pre social media a little bit, where things would go viral, but I guess it went viral in its own way back in 2001, 2002. And almost every year we put out another compilation. So we did like Punk Goes Pop 2, Punk Goes Pop 3, but we also did Punk Goes Acoustic, Punk Goes 80s, Punk Goes 90s, Punk Goes Hip Hop. So there was all these different themes, and we did them every year. So it snowballed. It got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mm,
And there must be at least 15 to 20 versions by now. And so altogether, there must be over 200 of those songs. And um, we started making music videos for the songs,
mm,
but it was always like hard rock, punk, pop punk bands doing covers of really popular radio hits. And they've just become a real brand, the Punk Goes brand, to where there was only usually 12 to 15 artists that could get on those CD compilations, and that are now digital, and we were very selective on those. We always took a top down approach, where we looked to the biggest bands in rock music and tried to get them to cover pop songs.
mm,
And we would contact the artist and see their level of interest, and make a deal, and get them on the record.
mm,
Um, and then, but there was always hundreds of bands that couldn't get on the compilations. So
mm,
what they started doing is just doing their own versions and putting them up on YouTube.
mhm,
So there was probably only 200 artists officially on the Punk Goes compilations that have streamed over 1 billion times.
mhm,
Um, but there must be tens of thousands of other artists that didn't get on the compilations over the years, that made their own covers and put them on YouTube.
mhm,
So it became a real thing, to the point where this one artist, they're called I Prevail. They're a pretty big rock band now. They probably have 2 or 3 million monthly listeners on
mhm,
Spotify. Um, but they sort of kicked off their career from a cover song, a cover of Taylor Swift's
mhm.
Blank Space. And this song just really went viral, to where, I mean, her song, Taylor Swift's song, was already way at the top of the charts, but
Right.
right behind it was the I Prevail rock version of the song. And all of those Taylor Swift fans, I mean, the minions, checked out the rock version and they really liked it. And
Right.
so that added a whole nother like layer of excitement to these rock covers of Ed Sheeran songs and Justin Bieber songs and all this. So it really brought in a young audience to these rock bands,
Mm,
and it regenerated every year. There was a fresh new group of middle school or high school kids that discovered these compilations, and they sort of grew up with them.
mhm.
And yeah, it was just it's still an ongoing project, and it's pretty exciting. So
Yeah, yeah.
check it out.
So I have to ask you this. You are probably aware of BTS, right? The
Hmm.
Korean boy band, and their journey to stardom, and but they began from a humble beginning. It was they were underground artists who were just trying to make it and didn't have a huge fan base. And now they're just like the largest boy band in the world, and they have fans from all over the world that follow them. And some of these fans, they call it the army, are just brutal when it comes to defending these members. And so, what's your take on on them as a band, the message they're trying to create. And
Yeah, I don't follow too closely. I think the last I heard is they're like a ridiculous percentage of the Korean economy, to like where it's like over 1%, maybe even like 2 or 3% of the overall Korean economy, and they're responsible for a huge percentage of the tourism, well, pre-pandemic, of people visiting Korea just because they took an interest through BTS. So um, it's it's beyond music at this point. It's a cultural phenomenon, and I think
do you think music should be that way as well? They should be more than just music. It should inspire people to act in ways that, you know, that are positive. Either it is through traveling, getting exposure to different cultures, learning a different language, or I don't know. I mean,
I don't think it should be separate or one or the other. I say, I say it should all be mixed in. Entertainment. I mean, let's face it, they're young, good-looking boys or whatever, and that appeals to young ladies, and that's the catalyst. And the social media is dominated by that younger demographic. And I
right.
mean, they were able to like shut down a Trump rally or something, not shut it down, but like reduce the capacity just by fake buying tickets for it or something like that, inflating. Like they have this like power. But I think I just think it's there's always going to be, the sort of teen heartthrobs, and they the Beatlemania concept or whatever. I think that's where we're at with BTS, and I think that they've done it well. It probably starts with the highly produced music, the good looking videos, and all of that, and but then they've, from what I like I said, I don't follow too closely, but I think they've done a good job developing each of their personal brands. Like, somebody's focusing on T-shirts, and with interesting artwork and messages, and another one has some sort of charitable cause. And I think rather than use one individual, and they can break it up into however many members they are, and each have their own thing. Um, I just think it's smart, and it's not entirely original. I mean, it's been done, but they've obviously really built sort of a brand, and used their music and their cultural status for positive things. So
Yeah,
more
yeah.
power to them.
Yeah, obviously they've spoken at the United Nations, and overall their message has been about uh, self-love and self-respect, and loving yourself really is their main message before loving other people and doing good in the world. And so I think that it's quite an inspiration. Even John Cena, was a professional wrestler, is a huge fan of them. And NASA, I read somewhere that NASA even played a few of their songs out in space. And so it's pretty incredible. It's just the power the music can have on people and society. I think is pretty incredible. What do you hope to do with your business? Do you see it more of an educational platform, or is it going to be more than that? Do you have like a 3 to 5 year goal, what that would look like?
Yeah, I think I like when I originally set out, I wanted to give artists the real, um, you know, no gimmicks, the real way to develop a fan base, and to
Hmm.
monetize your audience,
Hmm.
and build a business. And I didn't want it to become gimmicky, just
Right.
real advice from somebody who's been in the music industry for a long time, and done it repeatedly. And it's not necessarily for everybody. I mean, there's lots of styles of music and types of musicians, and some perform, some don't. Some want to have a superstar career. Some are happy to be hobbyists,
Mhm.
But I do have something to offer sort of all levels of musicians. And I just, I don't necessarily want this to become, you know, a physical academy, or with lots of employees. I might bring in guest speakers here and there over the years, but I'm happy to keep it small and service oriented.
Mhm.
It I would not be happy if a lot of people got in there and felt like they didn't get a little bit more attention from me. Part of my academy is, you get all of the, training videos and lessons that take you months to consume. But you also have an active community where they can interact with me, and I'm doing some like one-on-one coaching inside of the academy.
Mhm.
And I don't want that to be watered down if I can help it. So um, if I'm able to support my family and support uh, my lifestyle the way where I'm happy and I don't feel overwhelmed or stressed out, and I'm able to, you know, keep healthy, spend time with my family, that's enough for me. It doesn't need to become some, huge. I'm not trying to become the biggest online academy for music industry. If that happens, and I can control it and keep it, um, to my vision, that's fine. But
Right.
um, that's sort of where I see it in 3 to 5 years. And yeah, I think I'm almost there. Like I love what I've built. I get good feedback from my members. They're happy, and I get a lot of good feedback about it. So
Mhm. Yeah, that's
yeah.
great. I think you mentioned a few things that's really important, and I think that speaks largely to purpose, which is that you want to be able to build something that's service oriented. You mentioned about connection, having that one-on-one coaching, and how that brings meaning into your work. Obviously relationships is important, and
Mhm.
without it I don't think that businesses survive. And so that's definitely a key aspect of what a good business should be. And so I think you figured out what drives you happy, and what brings you joy is are those things that we just talked about. And so props to you for achieving at that level of understanding and success. Speaking
Thank
of
you.
success, what are some of the habits that you could share with my listeners in terms of that, either if they wanted to level up their career, moving up the ladder, or starting their own business? Like, what are some of those habits that they'll need to have in order to transition into one area to another?
Okay. Yeah, I think disciplining yourself to a daily, you know workflow, and um, you know I'm big on morning routines
Mm,
and to-do lists, and just trying to not overwhelm yourself.
mhm,
Every day you got to take action. And I have three big things on my list that I want to check off every day. Of the three, there's usually one big thing that moves my business forward or moves me closer towards my goals. And I think just doing one big thing a day, it really, makes you feel like at the end of the day, hey, you did your job.
mhm,
And if it takes 30 minutes, well, that's 30 minutes in a day. You did that one big thing, and you can call that a pretty good day, or maybe it takes you the whole day, and that's fine. But I think that's a habit, is those, accomplishing getting in the habit of accomplishing a big thing every day.
mhm,
And then the little things, they don't matter as much typically, but there's things you just have to do. But if you're ever feeling like overwhelmed, then you need to get help. You need to get help from either a coworker, or if you have an assistant or an intern, or a family member, or somebody that you can delegate that to. With musicians, they have typically other musicians in their group, or if they don't, they have somebody else to help. So
mhm,
I say getting a little bit of help when you need it, and not trying to do everything.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, I think uh, just knowing what you have to do when you wake up in the morning and
Mhm.
getting to work and getting it done is just a really good habit.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. I think you mentioned, your point about the small habits or small things, I should say, doing them even though they're small. And that's so important because we may see it short term as they're just small things we need to do, but overall, long term, they compound and that just transition into something magnificent. And so it's important to also not to neglect those small activities or to-do list items that we need to you know, to do to keep us moving forward. Um, so just a few more questions here I have.
Yeah.
The next question is, of course, we discussed about challenges. What are two or three rewarding things about your profession that you take pride
Hmm. I think I think probably the most rewarding is, when an artist sort of arrives, like,
in? Hmm.
to where it's not just getting a lot of likes or hearts, or you know um, getting sort of these vanity metrics of, a lot of streams, but to where they start to, make an income and realize that they're not just trying to, you know uh, replicate what some other artist has done. They've finally got their own fan base. And I
Hmm.
think that moment when they realize that, hey, like, they don't just like our music because it sounds like some other artist. They actually like us, and they want to talk about us. They want to spend money with us. They want to wear our, things. Some artists are getting, their fans are getting tattoos of their artwork and stuff like that. And so I think when an artist has a breakthrough like that and they realize they've done it, they have their own fans.
Right.
um, I think that's really rewarding. um, Also, just to see an artist go, it happens slowly. I've been with very few artists I've worked with where it happens quickly. And
Mhm.
even if it appears to happen quickly from the outside, there's a long history of music lessons and, you know, um, struggles, and there people forces telling them you're living a pipe dream and you can't do this. And so musicians face a lot of psychological stress, and people in their lives that tell them to get real jobs and that music is not a real job,
Mhm.
not a real profession, you can't make money doing it, it's risky. So seeing artists have that breakthrough after 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, like, and finally sticking with it and having that breakthrough.
Mhm.
I love that. And it's why I really am drawn to developing artists and new artists coming up, because it's exciting when they have that breakthrough. Um, you know, Most of the things I'm proud of, the artists that I'm proud to have worked with, I was there from early days. Like,
Mhm.
it wasn't like I jumped in on somebody else's success. I was a part of it. So I
Right.
take a lot of pride in that.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. What are a few advice that you could share with my listeners?
Hmm. Well, with the theme of your podcast and finding purpose in your work,
Mhm.
I think just having, from a big picture bit of advice I would give you is, um, you know the difference between your work and your job.
Mm.
And a lot of the majority of people out there, I think, they they don't like their job, they're not happy in their job. And just realize that's just a job, it's not your work. If your
Mhm.
work is your passion, and I think we all sort of know inside what our passions are, and what we really want to do, and you need to follow that, and you're going to be, more skilled and engaged and excited about things that you're passionate about than doing something you're not. It's like the sales example in my life. Like, um, I wasn't I liked the money, but I didn't like selling the product of telecom products, like internet and all of that. I wanted to do music. So I just recommend you follow that passion, um, and understand that you can always change your job. Like have your passion and try to make that your life's work. And you can always change your job, and you should change your job if you're not happy.
Mhm.
Um, so purpose and your life's work, I think that goes hand in hand.
Mhm.
Um, and also don't do things to make other people happy, your friends, your family. Um, I did it, and I don't regret. Like I went and got that job to make other people happy. I went and got a real job, and I think it did make some of my friends and family happy. Like, oh, he's finally going to be okay. But I wasn't happy. But at the same time, I don't regret it, because as soon as I realized I wasn't happy, I quit. But
Mhm.
I also took a lot of skills away from that experience. So
Mhm.
you'll stumble along the way. But yeah, I would say my advice would just be, um, don't do it for other people. Do what makes you happy. Do it for yourself,
Mhm.
and just you know don't be afraid of failure. I know that's probably a common thing you might hear on podcasts, but it's so true. Like,
Mhm.
what's the worst that can happen? As long as you've got your loved ones, your family, your health, you can always, find a job. You got to believe in your skills, and that know that you're good at what you do, and just
Right.
you can always create your own job or get a new job.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I like to do with the show is really inspire people to have the courage to take the steps that they need to take in order to follow their dreams and find out what is it that they want to do with their life, and not be stuck in a job where they're not as engaged and they're actually costing company a lot of money for not being engaged. And so me with I'm an HR consultant, and I work with companies to help transform their culture and unlock potential and get their people to be more engaged. And without the right culture, the right people, the right environment, it's hard to get people to achieve a high you know productivity level. And so and we have to follow our dreams. We have to do the things that inspire us to be more of us in the world, because life is too short. And so you really hit the mark in that one. I really want to thank you for contributing your insight to the show. It's wonderful having you on, and to learn about your background in music and how that plays into this show's goal of purpose and meaning. I think is really going to give a lot of my listeners a lot of things to think about, and to really tap into their inner calling, and hopefully find a path um, that they can really be on to achieve their highest, truest self. And so, Todd, this is great. Thank you. Where can people find you should they want to connect?
Yeah, thanks, Colin, for having me on, and thanks to everybody for listening. If you want to connect with me, I think the best way to find me is bandbuilderacademy.com. You can learn about my business. Um, I am on. I have a blog as well called Heat on the Street. So that's heatonthestreet.com, along with all the social media. You can find me on there, and um, yeah, if you can even email me. I'm open. I check all my email. It's just Todd at bandbuilderacademy.com.
Great. Well, folks, thank you for tuning in. Should you want to connect with Todd, you know where to find him. Again, Todd, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you're doing well with your family in Japan, and be safe out there.
Likewise, take it easy. Be safe, man.